When you look back at the season from hell that the Fever had, none of us expected them to be in this situation. None of us expected them to be winning a very close Game 3.
What if I told you that Caitlin Clark might play in the WNBA championship game? I understand that it seems unattainable. Correct? We've been informed for weeks that her season is over, that her groin injury has prevented her from playing, and that there is no turning back. However, there may now be a legitimate route for Clark to return to the court because of a little-known WNBA rule. If the Fever makes it to the finals, imagine the biggest star in women's basketball returning to the court. On the largest stage in the league, a twist like that has the potential to completely alter the situation. Here's the problem though. It's difficult. The roster changes, the hazards, and the regulations are all interconnected. Additionally, although some individuals think, others are certain that this loophole was created for just such a circumstance, although it's a very slim chance. We're going to dissect everything today. The true meaning of the rule, the reason the Fever created an opportunity, and how Indiana's chances of winning a title might be affected by Clark's return. Let's begin with the fundamentals. This was not where the Indiana Fever were meant to be. When the season first started, most analysts didn't even have their qualifying for the postseason. The roster appeared youthful, unreliable, and damaged. Caitlin Clark then fell, and their season seemed to be coming to an end. However, the Fever persevered and advanced to the semi-finals. They are now only a step away from the championship game. Consider the implications of that. Aaliyah Boston has adopted a more function. Veterans like Natasha Howard and Odyssey Sims have contributed to Kelsey Mitchell's explosive growth. A calming presence on the squad. Even Sophie Cunningham, who many believed wouldn't play a significant role, has contributed vigor and fortitude. On the floor's two ends, this group has come to represent resilience. When a team wins a game, they have no right to triumph. You have to worry what would happen if they were to regain their superstar. And that's the talk in Indiana. At this moment, what could the Fever do with Caitlin Clark if they can fight this far without her? Fans wonder? The response can be frightening. Because Indiana's ceiling not only rises but explodes when Clark is in the lineup. That's why the entire discussion surrounding her potential comeback is so intriguing. Let's go back and review now. The reason we are here at all. Due to a groin injury that kept her out of action for weeks, Caitlin Clark hasn't played. Long ago, when the Fever declared she will miss the remainder of the regular season, most people thought that meant the postseason as well. Groin injuries can be challenging. They can linger or heal fast at different periods. Clark only participated in about 13 games this year, which is surprising given the amount of attention she received. It was anticipated that she would dominate the league, and for a while she did. The arenas were sold out by the Fever, surpassing TV numbers and becoming as the WNBA's must-watch squad. Then the injury struck, and everything fell apart. Down. This is the intriguing part though. Recovery from groin injuries often takes 2 to 6 weeks. Based on the severity. That timeline has long since passed. Clark has had time to recover, time for training, and perhaps even some behind-the-scenes preparation, which poses the obvious query. Why not bring her back if she's feeling well enough? At this point, the topic of health turns to regulations. As much as Clark may desire to go back, it goes beyond whether or not her body is prepared. T concerns whether the WNBA permits it. And that's where a lot of complexity arises. This is when things start to get interesting as to standard WNBA regulations. Playoff rosters are locked once they are submitted at the conclusion of the regular season. No more signatures under duress. No more 7-day contracts and no hiring unpaid free agents. What you submit is what you've. I understand, but there's a catch. The provision in the WNBA permits teams to activate players who are currently under contract, but marked as dormant. Thus, athletes who are suspended, on maternity leave, or on the injured list may theoretically be added to the active postseason roster in the event that an injury opens a space. And you know what? That includes Caitlin Clark. She is not an arbitrary free agent. She is a member of the Fever organization and has a written contract. People are buzzing because of this. In theory, if another player is injured, the Fever might activate her, or if an exception is made by the league, Now, comprehend this before we get too far. There are very few exceptions. They are not given away carelessly by the league. However, the language's existence indicates that this isn't only some crazy fantasy. Despite the roster cutoff, Caitlin Clark has a realistic chance of making a comeback in the finals. Has already gone by, that's the whole situation's twist. Why is this loophole so important, then? Because it suggests that Caitlin Clark's season may not be finished. The injury announcement was assumed by most supporters. Was definitive. However, if you're under contract, you're never completely ruled out because to the CBA, being under team control and being on the active postseason roster are the two main distinctions here. Injured players are still technically eligible for activation even if they remain on the inactive list. If specific requirements are fulfilled. In contrast, emergency or hardship contracts expire at the end of the regular season. Concludes. The fact that this clause is so uncommon is what makes it even more fascinating. There aren't many players like Clark have ever been in this situation. Signed, hurt, yet possibly capable of making a comeback at the highest risk. This kind of circumstance compels executives, coaches, and even the league to reflect carefully. Does the fever affect Clark's ability to play? Do they run the danger of upsetting the dynamics of the team? Or do they continue to use the roster that brought them this far? This loophole isn't only a legal technicality because of this. This choice has the potential to change how the season ends. Let's now discuss the gamble. Returning a player following a long-term layoffs due to injuries are never simple. The dangers are cleared. It's possible that Caitlin Clark isn't in top form and could hurt herself again. And the flow of a team that is finally clicking could be upset by her presence. Chemistry is sensitive. And there's no time to try new things in postseason basketball. Here's the opposite side though. Even Caitlin at 60%. One of the league's most dangerous players is still Clark. Her vision opens doors, her shooting pushes boundaries. And everyone around her is uplifted by her fierce competition. That kind of impact doesn't just help, it transforms. This is a huge reward. The Fever suddenly have a puncher's chance against anyone with Clark on the ground. Even the aces of the reigning champion. She makes opponents reconsider their strategies, modify their matchups, and show Indiana respect in ways they might not otherwise. The Fever's willingness to accept that danger is the question. Do they take a chance on history by betting on their franchise athlete, or do they take precautions? Her health in the long run. Short-term fame against long-term security is the age-old conundrum. Additionally, for a group this near it's an extremely difficult decision in the finals. The element that caused controversy was this. The Indiana Fever only submitted 11 players on their roster for the playoffs. Teams are permitted to carry 12, thus that is exceptional. Why would they leave a space unoccupied? Some people think that this was a planned action. Why not filling the 12th position? The Fever might have allowed themselves some leeway, perhaps even purposefully leaving the door open for Clark's comeback. Why not simply add another depth player to the roster if they had no other plans? Rather, they bet on the strength of their group and entered the playoffs with fewer players. That raises the question of whether the front desk discreetly gave Caitlin that position. Now, formally, nothing has been mentioned by the team. However, the choice raises enough red flags to encourage conjecture. The notion that Indiana would intentionally go short-handed unless they had a more comprehensive strategy is worth considering. Because if Clark truly has a way back, then that available roster spot may be the hint that everyone overlooked. And if the league was taken aback by the Fever and made it to the finals, it will appear to be one of the most audacious tactical decisions in recent WNBA history. For a moment, let's be honest. The most important question is whether Caitlin Clark is physically prepared, even if the regulations permit it, to come back. Playoff basketball is an entirely different level of intensity, and injuries don't heal overnight. She may not have been practicing at full speed with the squad during this run, according to reports. Thus, her conditioning may not be in the proper location, and playoff minutes would immediately put her body to the test. There is a considerable chance of re-injury. If she returns too quickly, on the other hand, Caitlin Clark is a unique competitor. She performs well under duress. And she is designed for significant events. You are aware that she has been training even if she hasn't participated in complete practices. Recovering and getting ready in the background. She will fight for the opportunity to play if there is even a remote possibility. All of that must be weighed by the Fever. Is she intelligent enough? Is she powerful enough? Is she able to enter the finals and genuinely improve the team's chances rather than harm them? If the response is affirmative, Indiana may surprise the world. This becomes one of the most significant what-ifs in WNBA history if the response is negative. For a moment, let's pretend that. For the finals, Caitlin Clark does make a comeback. The entire matchup is abruptly altered. Against a formidable force such as the Fever would unexpectedly have a weapon that would make the defense spread the floor, just like the Las Vegas Aces. Teams can challenge Indiana's guards to shoot by packing the paint against Aaliyah Boston in the absence of Clark. That strategy falls apart with Clark. Her firing range causes defenses to recoil, creating opportunities for Boston, Cunningham and Mitchell. The Fever's offensive suddenly appears to be much more potent. Clark's defense isn't flawless. However, her presence allows Indiana to play more quickly, take more chances, and have faith in her ability to initiate transition plays. Even if she may not have fully recovered, her court vision and IQ are sufficient to tip the scales in favor of the Fever. Let's face it, the hoopla would be enormous on its own. Caitlin Clark's comeback from injury in the finals? That's the kind of moment that goes beyond basketball. TV viewership would rise, stadia would be packed with spectators, and the WNBA would become the focus of the whole sports world. There is more to the Fever than just X's and O's. It's about having faith in their ability to succeed. There's more to this whole thing. The WNBA itself. Never assume that the league office isn't keeping an eye on things. The biggest celebrity is Caitlin Clark. The WNBA has seen in years, and business is directly impacted by her presence. Sponsorships, TV deals, ticket sales. She moves the needle, no matter what. The league is in a difficult situation as a result. They want her to be safe and healthy, on the one hand. They cannot afford to jeopardize her long-term career by hurrying her back. However, in contrast, for visibility and ratings, the finals featuring Caitlin Clark are ideal. Would the WNBA covertly consent? Her activation if it meant that more people would be watching. Maybe if they believed the risk, would they intervene and shut it down? Was excessively high? It is also feasible, and in any case, this may be a league-wide discussion rather than just Indiana's choice. And that's what makes this circumstance so special. Basketball is only one aspect of it. Business, branding, and the league's future. Which way they choose could reveal a lot about the WNBA's top priorities in this crucial moment. So let's put everything together in theory that would allow Caitlin Clark to make a comeback for the WNBA Finals. The CBA contains a little-known clause. The Fever left an open roster, she is under contract, and she is recuperating. Location that sustains the possibility. But in all honesty, the chances are still slim. She hasn't worked out at full